Hi folks, I'm Ron Brown. Welcome to my studio. Today I would like to walk you through the assembly process and show you how to use the ProGrind sharpening system. This system will allow you to take an 8-inch slow speed grinder and set it up for a very, very professional lathe tool sharpening system. We have all of the components here in the package, which I'm going to open in just a minute, and we're going to pair it up with an 8-inch slow speed Rikon grinder. This particular one is a 1 horsepower model. It's one of the larger ones, but any 8-inch slow speed grinder will work just fine with your new ProGrind system. First step in preparing to install our sharpening system is to prepare the grinder. Now, you can bolt your grinder right to the workbench. Most turners I know prefer to mount it on a movable base so they can move it around the shop or reposition it if they need to. The arms and stuff that you're going to be mounting here are actually quite long, and if you have your grinder mounted next to a wall, it's usually a problem. So I'm going to mount mine on a mobile base here so I can twist it and move it when I need to. For an 8-inch grinder, we recommend, if you're going to do this, a base about 24 inches and about 12 inches deep. Some grinders don't have a base that lifts them up this high. You need to be aware of that, and you may actually have to put another piece of plywood here. The reason for that is your bases, your mounting bases, are going to go under the guard. And when they go under the guard, you have levers and stuff that have to move, and you don't want them to hit the bottom of the guard. So you may actually have to raise yours up. The instructions will talk about that. So when I mounted the grinder on to the mobile pad here, I mounted it in the center both ways, and then bolted it down securely. So the next step in laying out our grinder is to do layout for the base. And you'll have 2 bases, 1 for each side. And what we have to do is make a mark on the plywood that's going to be in the center of the base. So the easiest way I know to do this is to use a carpenter's square, tri-square or something, line it up right in the middle of your wheel, and then make a mark on your plywood. And we want to extend this mark back because we're going to use that to mount our bases. And I want to extend this mark, so I'm just going to use carpenter's square. We have to do the same thing for both sides. That's right in the middle. There's my mark on the plywood. Going to extend it back, and then I'll use the carpenter's square to go through. Two of the key components to your system are the bases. They're identical. You have one for the right side, one for the left side. So the lines we made earlier are so that we can line up our base. So the instructions will tell you that this little notch here should be centered, lined up right on the mark. And I like to try to line the front of this up basically with my wheel. So about right there. It's not critical, doesn't really matter a whole lot. You will also find in your kit that you'll have 2 of the high density polyethylene glide blocks, and what those are for is when you get all the grit and stuff from grinding down in here, it still makes it very easy to slide back and forth. So you have one for the front and one for the back, so there'd be two for each side. You'll have two more for that side. So now that we have both of our bases mounted, then we can take either arm, this happens to be the pocket arm, lock it down, and it's absolutely interchangeable for either side. This happens to be the coarse wheel, this is the fine wheel. I can do whatever grinding I want to over here, and then just this easily come back to this side and set it up. Your system comes with two different arms. You have a multi-use adjustable platform that fits in to the base exactly like the pocket. So we can easily interchange them and use both of the arms on either side to do whatever we happen to want to do. This is the fine wheel, this is the coarse. I have access to both sides with all of the appliances. One of the exciting setup aids that comes with your system is worth its weight in gold. We call this the quad because it sets up 4 different tools. There are only 6 categories of high-speed steel turning tools, and this sets up the proper angle for 4 of them. Now, these angles are not all the angles there are, but they are the most common angles, and they work for most of the people, most of the time, in most situations. So what you have here is a bowl scraper, a roughing gouge, a parting tool, and a skew. So here's the scraper. I'm actually going to use another one. This is brand new out of the box. We have a spindle roughing gouge. We have a parting tool. And we have a skew. So let me show you how it works over here on the machine. This is a bowl scraper with an 8-degree bevel on it. It's 8 degrees off of vertical. So it's actually fairly blunt. That way it's not real aggressive and it's not catchy. So in order to set up our bowl scraper, we're going to set it up at 8 degrees. And the way it works is you have 2 points of contact. The void here is to compensate for wheel wear. So the way we do it is just loosen up your platform, 2 points of contact, lock it down, and now you're at the perfect angle every time. The beauty of this is your angle is easy, it's quick, it's repeatable. The next time you need to grind this, you're going to take off the minimum amount of steel, which means your tools are going to last a lot longer. It works exactly the same with all the tools. This is a parting tool, and the parting tool setting here is 30 degrees or 60-degree included angle. So loosen up your platform, make 2 firm points of contact, lock it down, and you're good to go. So you sharpen one side here, the other side here. You have a perfect grind each and every time. Quick, easy, repeatable. The skew chisel works exactly the same way. When we look at our quad, we find out that we want to sharpen the skew chisel at 21.5 degrees. That's a very steep angle, so adjust the length accordingly. Loosen up your platform, make 2 firm points of contact, lock it down, and then you're ready to get that perfect grind. The final tool that we're going to set up here with our quad is a spindle roughing gouge. Now I recommend 45 degrees for the spindle roughing gouge and for many other tools. The spindle roughing gouge setting is right here. Loosen up your fence, 2 points of contact, lock it down, and you'll always come back to exactly the same angle. Another accessory that comes with your Pro Grind is a miter slot slide. So if you want to make sure that you get an absolutely straight grind on your skew, also you can put your bench chisels straight into it, and your bench chisels, you can get a perfectly straight edge on those as well. There's a miter slot in the gauge here, and you just go back and forth like that, reset it the other way, and grind the other side. Makes everybody absolutely crazy is trying to get a grind on a bowl gouge. There are lots of different grinds. I have narrowed it down to the 3 basic grinds. Actually 4 you can do, but the 3 basic grinds. For greenwood, I like a very long Ellsworth type grind. There are 3 variables to getting the grind. One is called the projection, and that's how far out the your gouge sticks out of the tool. Well, we have built in gauge blocks, 1 3/4 on this side and 2 inches over here, so that whenever you secure your tool into the tool holding fixture, it's always going to be exactly the same. That is one variable that we've now made a constant. The second variable is the leg angle. And on your tool holding fixture, I've made that as simple as possible in that they're numbered. There's a 1, a 2, and a 3. So you see a 1 window, 2 window, 3 position. They're detent stops, so they lock in every time. When you lock the leg down, it's always going to be in exactly the right position. So we've eliminated the second variable. We've made it a constant also. The third variable, and the one that always takes so long for everybody to figure out, is how far the pocket is going to be away from the wheel. So you remember on the quad, the 2 points of contact that we had? Well, I've carried that same methodology over into a couple of setup blocks for your bowl gouges and your spindle gouges. Here's how that works. There's a recipe printed right on the side of the setup blocks. And what this does is it helps to set the distance of the pocket. So let's say we're going to do a long grind. And this says, bowl gouge, long grind. Use the 2-inch projection and the number 3 leg position, because I want to get a long grind. So I look at my leg position. It's in the number 3 position. So we insert our setup block into our tool holding fixture just exactly where our gouge would be. We place the leg here in the pocket, and then we make 2 firm points of contact. When you've done that and it's exactly where it's supposed to be, the resulting angle is going to be perfect and it's going to be repeatable. And if you noticed, it was also very quick. So now we've just solved that third variable. So remember I said a 2-inch projection. So I'm going to take my gouge and using the 2-inch side, I'm going to lock that in. And now when I place the tool here, I'm at exactly the correct angle that I want. The same angle I used last time, the same angle I'll use next time. It's quick, easy, it's repeatable. What that means to you is you take less metal off and your tools last a lot longer. We've included 2 setup blocks with your Pro Grind. The recipe here says bowl gouge, long grind, 2-inch projection. The leg position is number 3. If you want a bowl gouge with a short grind, typically used on dry wood, then you'd use a 2-inch projection, but you'd move the leg to the number 2 position. And then a bowl gouge with a standard grind, use a 2-inch projection, but move the leg to the number 1 position. And for a spindle gouge, it's the same thing with a 2-inch projection and a number 1 position. So I've installed a spindle gouge into our tool holding fixture, and I used the setup block here, the longer one, to help me do that. So we've got this set now. I'll get a perfect grind on my spindle gouge. However, some of us like to use a secondary bevel. That way we don't get so much bruising of the wood. It makes a cleaner, smoother, better cut. So we have included for you a kick-out block. And the kick-out block has a magnet here. You can kick it out a 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4, or 1 inch. And what this is designed to do, and let's say I'm going to use the 1/2 inch kick-out now, put it in your pocket. It'll clamp in like that. When you take the tool holding fixture and put it in there, it's going to allow you to grind that secondary bevel with absolute control. You can do the same thing on your bowl gouges. When you're hollowing the inside of a bowl, you'll get much less tear out, much less bruising. The tool will be a lot easier to control. So 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4, and 1 inch, and all you do to use the appropriate one is set the kick out amount you want here, put it in, and go. More experienced turners love to sharpen a spindle roughing gouge over on this wheel because it's a lot easier to control. If you're sharpening on the platform, you have to control the handle both up and down and side to side. If you put it in the pocket, all you have to do is control this, and it works great. So what we've included for you is a safety T-bar, and the safety T-bar adjusts up and down. You can see the T-handle here, and it slides back and forth. So the purpose of the safety T is so that if, God forbid, you should be out here a little too far, your angle's a little too steep, and it cuts into the wheel, it could cut the wheel in half, and bad things could happen. So your safety T is going to prevent that. You can only grind so much. And I have heard folks decide that or discover that they can actually use a $1 bill. If they want to take off more, they'll use a $5 bill. But you can put a small piece of paper here to act kind of like a spacer, and when you lock everything down and remove that, you can take off the exact amount of the thickness of your paper or whatever you put in there. And you can get a perfect grind exactly like that. This assembly is included. You can see it goes up and down, moves in and out. You'll find a million uses for it. And it just goes right on the pocket, just like that. Easy to set up, saves metal on your tools, and will make a much safer environment for you. Thank you for deciding to own clearly the finest lathe tool sharpening system on the market today. You get a tool holding fixture with easy to set leg angles. You get 2 different setup blocks with recipes on it for 4 different grinds. You get the quad setting gauge to set your platform perfectly and quickly and repeatably every single time. You get a kick-out block to put a secondary bevel on all of your gouges. You get the safety T for your roughing gouges and other tools. You get a miter slot clamp for your skews, bench chisels, plane irons, that sort of thing. You get a pocket with gauge blocks on it, 1 3/4 and a 2-inch. You get 2 identical mounting bases, and all at a very good price. Thank you very much. I'm Ron Brown.